One of the most impressive camera angles on track is the crane around the corner. The camera tracking the bike around the corner from a very low angle and close to the action is a great shot, but it is also tricky for audio capture. The SPL is very high, and this part of the track can also get busy with multiple bikes outside the camera field of view that we want to focus on. The challenge is to use a microphone to track and isolate a bike or a group of bikes around the corner.
One, two, two. This is mine, okay. This one is okay.
He can switch for you.
Yeah, I can't see anything.
I can see.
The pit lane is the pista.
We're the first to introduce an optical low-pass filter built into the PTZ. What we also did with the UE160 that's so revolutionary is that we completely redesigned the mechanism in which the PTZ moves. It's much smoother and much more accurate. And also the workflow flexibility, because it includes full NDI, NDI-HX, and an industry first, we now offer SMPTE 2110 as an option on the AWUE160. In addition to a rear tailgate light, we now have dual XLR inputs. Also, you notice two SDI outputs. One of them to output the high speed in HD, as well as return video when using SMPTE 2110. This, along with many other features, make the AWUE160 an awesome addition to our Platinum series. We listened to our customers. They brought to us what they would want to see in a next generation PTZ, in the AWUE160 delivered.
Yeah, I will just give an introduction. Yeah? Welcome to GSLProfessional live podcast, broadcasting live from CABSAT 2020.
We are introducing the AW-UE-160. This is truly a groundbreaking PTZ. We have a newly developed 4K sensor, and this new sensor technology allows us.
Welcome to GSLProfessional live podcast from CABSAT 2023. My name is Kayvan Faroki. I'm your host for today. GSL is thrilled to be here representing some of the biggest names in the industry. Over the new few hours will be exclusive interviews with brand representatives from across the globe for the latest innovations in broadcast and the cutting technology that drive the industry forward. We'll be covering it all. Audio-Technica is a trusted name in the audio industry with a focus on producing high-performance microphones and headphones. Our first guest for today is Alex Legis, the Technical Director EEMA at Audio-Technica. Alex is a product expert and has been in the development team for many years for Audio-Technica. Today we'll be talking to him about Audio-Technica's latest products and their application in the broadcast industry. Mr. Alex, welcome on the show. I know that you just came back from MotoGP in France, the motorbike racing event. How does Audio-Technica approach sound for such an event?
Mr. Kevan, thank you for having me. Really appreciate that to be here. Yeah, as you said, just came back from MotoGP in France, which was a very exciting race. And when I say exciting, that's exactly what the job is of sound that Audio-Technica is delivering for this broadcast event. So the emotion is coming through the audio, while the broadcast picture is basically delivering the information to the viewers out there. And the MotoGP did an astonishing job in the last decade, you have to say, improving and expanding the vision of the visual part of the race coverage. And then since a few years, Audio-Technica came on board, and we now try to fill the need for more closer sound on the bikes, and hence we connect the audio to the picture of the cameras around the track.
So how do you match the video from the cameras with the audio of Audio-Technica's microphones?
That's a good question. We have basically two different sets of cameras around the track. There's one set of cameras which is what we call the track feed, which are all the cameras positioned around the racetrack. And there's a second group of cameras, which is actually the larger group, which are the cameras, the special cameras. Some of them are shoulder cameras in the pit lane, and we have the helicopter camera, we have a drone camera. But then the most exciting cameras for the viewers are typically the cameras on the motorbikes. So we sit on the motorbikes and capture the picture from as you would ride the bike, or if you would face back. And this is where we put the audio.
On the motorbike, isn't that very loud?
Yes, the sound of the motorbike is super loud. And there's a lot going on there, because the sound pressure level is sheerly loud, as you mentioned. So the challenge for Audio-Technica was to develop a microphone that could handle this sheer sound pressure level, which is exceeding 150 dB easily on some of the bikes. Plus, sometimes we are very close to the exhaust pipe, so the high temperatures there building up during the race is another challenge for Audio-Technica and our engineers to settle with. Interesting enough, we started our approach, and that's actually what we use today, with lapel microphone, lavalier microphone that you would use in broadcast productions on the lavalier, on the lapel of a shirt or somewhere, for speech and for announcement. And the same type of microphone we're using on the motorbike. So we use two tiny cardioids, which we put in a figure in an XY setup to give us a stereo onboard sound.
As I was watching the MotoGP, I realized that the cameras are switching really hard. Is that the same for the audio?
Actually, no. This is the most important factor for audio in any production that makes it very different to the picture. Usually people tend to think that yeah, you change the picture, you change the audio. That's actually never the case. If you watch a movie, and just imagine you have a very sad movie, and at the end of the scene, something terribly sad is happening. Usually then there's sad music coming into the audio channel, and while the picture is already fading to black and going into the next scene, that sound of the music is still playing into the next scene. So it basically smoothes out the transition from the one scene to the next scene. Or vice versa, you might have a very shocking scene which ends with a big bang on the picture, and you see a static picture at the end, and then by sudden you hear voices talking, which are people talking in the next scene, which you can't see on screen yet. This is a very common technique in movie productions. Now we use the same technology and the same approach on broadcast productions as well. So while we have the different camera positions around the track, some of the cameras are very close to the track, and as soon as the director of the production decides to switch from one camera to the next one, the audio would slowly fade out from the previous microphone and slowly fade into the next one. You never make a hard cut on the audio because that would sound really bad. You would only make a very quick cut when you go on an on-bike situation. But the rule is the closer you are with the camera to the track, the faster you fade in and fade out. If you have a very long distance shot, you fade in very slow. So you take a long time to transition from one audio to the other.
Okay, so as you mentioned, the cameras in the pit are very differently placed. How do you capture the audio from this variety of distances?
Yeah, for the track feed, the cameras around the track, there are lots of different microphones that we have to use because of the different distances, as you mentioned. The most common used is a setup of a BP28 shotgun microphone in an XY configuration, but we have a video clip prepared for that one, which might explain this much better. So if you can play that video, Pat Mendoza, our engineer on the MotoGP, can easily demonstrate and show what that is going to be.
Great. Let's go for the video.
It's the highest sensitivity within a PTZ on the market today. In addition,
Press number one. Number one.
One of the most beautiful moments in MotoGP is listening the trajectory of the bikes on the track as they dance from corner to corner. In order to hear this sound well, we need to capture the sound of what we call the zone flash, which is the zone where the cameras are closest to the track. Near the track, the sound levels are very high, and most microphones will distort and have poor low-end performance in this environment. The challenge is to use a microphone setup able to capture the whole bike trajectory at a very close range and keep all the detail and avoid distortion. To achieve this, we are using a couple of Audio-Technica BP28 in a 110-degree configuration, very close to the track. The large diaphragm shotgun BP28 can handle the extreme sound pressures and reproduce a clean wide frequency range. The flat frequency response and the high SPL capability makes the BP28 the king of the road.
You see, this was the first microphone that we used, the BP28. This is mainly for the shots where we have some distance to action. But as Pat mentioned, the low frequency content is a very key factor. In the past, all the audio sounded very high pitched on motorbike racing. Everybody thinks that motorbike racing sounds like, that's actually not the case. That was just due to the quality of the audio production in the past decades. So we changed that drastically with the new use of different microphone technologies. And here's a second video explaining a little bit about the low frequency content and how we settle with that one.
The corners are one of the most fun and challenging parts of the circuit, not only for the rider, but also in terms of sound production. On the track corners, the riders are challenged by the deceleration phase of the corner entry. This process creates a range of sounds that are very dynamic and complex to capture. So the challenge is to use a microphone setup able to capture a very dynamic range of sounds. The low-end sounds generated by the change to lower gear, but also other detailed sounds such as the braking, the engine explosions from the exhaust pipe, and other environmental sounds as the bike attacks the corners. For this task, this season we introduced the new dual-element cardioid AE2500 mic that features a cardioid condenser and dynamic capsules in perfect phase, combined in one housing. The dynamic capsules focus in the more aggressive and low-end rich sounds, whilst the condenser capsules capture all the details. Thanks to this microphone, the thrill of listening the bikes fighting from corner to corner is even greater.
Yes, so that is the Artis Elite 2500 that we just listened to. And a very exciting position actually for us is the crane camera, which is very close to the action. For that one, as we need to move with the camera, we cannot make a static setup with an XY with two microphones. So we use a stereo shotgun, the BP4029, which is a really unique item. And for that one, we have a video as well. So that will be video 3 then.
The corners are one of the most fun and challenging parts of the circuit, not only for the rider, but also in terms of sound production. On the track corners, the riders are challenged by the deceleration phase of the corner entry. This process creates a range of sounds that are very dynamic and complex to capture. So the challenge is to use a microphone setup able to capture a very dynamic range of sounds. The low-end sounds generated by the change to lower gear, but also other detailed sounds such as the braking, the engine explosions from the exhaust pipe, and other environmental sounds as the bike attacks the corners. For this task, this season we introduced the new dual-element cardioid AE2500. One of the most impressive camera angles on track is a crane around the corner. The camera tracking the bike around the corner from a very low angle and close to the action is a great shot, but it is also tricky for audio capture. The SPL is very high, and this part of the track can also get busy with multiple bikes outside the camera field of view that we want to focus on. The challenge is to use a microphone to track and isolate a bike or a group of bikes around the corner, considering the high sound pressure in this busy part of the track. To track the bikes around the corner, we are using the short stereo shotgun BP4029. The short BP4029 can easily be mounted on the crane, and we can choose from wide or narrow stereo output depending on the target area. This solution allows the viewer to get closer to MotoGP and the awesome sound of the bikes, living every lap as if they were watching from
So yeah, as you've seen, this stereo shotgun has a very interesting feature because it is an MS setup, so we have a mid and a side channel, and typically that would require a matrix mixer, which is it's not too complicated to operate, but for a cameraman maybe too bothersome. So what we do in the Audio-Technica stereo shotgun is we have an inbuilt matrix mixer, so you can select whether you want to have a narrow or a wide stereo straight away, and it comes directly as a left and a right out of the microphone, which is pretty neat. So we just set it to wide stereo or narrow stereo depending where it is, put a sticker on the switch, give it to the cameraman, and then everything is good to go live.
So you say the sound of the pit lane, is that from the cameras, the sound coming from?
In the pit lane, actually, we have the shoulder cameras, and yes, they have some onboard sound. But in addition to that one, as we only have a handful of cameras there in the pit lane for obvious reasons, we want to capture the different types of garages and boxes. So we cover everything with a boundary microphone, which we typically use in a conference setup. So something which is not in the broadcast world so commonly known. So and we have a video for that one prepared as well, which we can have a look at right now.
The pit lane is the epicenter of motorsports competition. The sound of the engines, the team's chatter, the tools, and even the weather are a big part of building the drama for MotoGP broadcast sound. There are many interesting sounds here to be captured, but this rich soundscape can get lost in the busy environment and the sheer volume of the pit lane announcers. The challenge is to use a microphone able to isolate each box and capture all the interesting details happening in a focused area outside the box, whilst being able to manage the loud bikes arriving and leaving the pit lane. The solution was to mount a low-profile U851R on the box's wall. The U851R is a half-carrier battery, able to work under extreme volume and reproduce every detail in a focused area.
What's the best position for you to install the microphones?
For us, the best position is in the wall, because all the things that happens during the free practice is in the front of the boxes. Thanks to this microphone, we are able to hear the sound of MotoGP pit lane in the greatest detail, and that, on the other hand, allows the spectator to fully immerse himself in the atmosphere of our World Championship at home.
So do you use immersive audio in MotoGP race?
Yes, we just started recently with a production of a new microphone that we're using on the MotoGP and other major sport events in summer and winter, which I cannot mention here. And we use an array of 8 microphones in a setup with 70.53 degrees between each of the elements within one sphere. And we use this to give the audio engineer basically a very complete setup of these 8 microphones. And the MotoGP technical crew then takes these 8 channels and orientates them in a way for in their mix. Sometimes it depends on where they position it, how they use that, so there's no fixed algorithm that how we combine them. But at the end of the day, we can create a 3D sound, a 5.4.4, whatever the format requires. It depends a little bit on the broadcasters that get the production out, so we play out different formats for them. And the setup is always this BP 3600 microphone that we use for it.
Okay, thank you so much, Alex. So we will continue with the video. It was nice having you in CABSAT 2023, and we look forward to having more events like this.
So, okay, man, thanks for having me, and to everybody out there, thanks for watching and keep going and make good sound for us.
Was amazing in the end of the day, and we tried the important things.